When start? When start? We start now. Haha. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another stream. My name, of course, is Hexblade, your head guildmaster and chief barista. Happy Friday, everybody. Yay! Congratulations on getting through another week. Your reward is watching videos with me. Yay! We got a good lineup today. Let me see here. What did I even post? I always forget. I have like the memory of a goldfish with like ADHD. What we got? What are the topics I said? Railgun, cactuses, JPEGs, a damn trebuchets, and more. The more being potentially a Dreamcast, so that's cool. And shepherd's pie, just as a thing on the side bunch. We might be going off to a bunch of tangents today because there are a lot of good videos, but they are minimal in number. So we'll see how this goes. But let's start off with a video from a creator that I very much do enjoy. Speaking about the Dreamcast. I don't own a Dreamcast. I still wish I did. Let's get over there. Hold on. Yeah. Dreamcast. But anyway, well, first off, I wasn't nice. I didn't say the thing yet. I wasn't nice. How was everyone's day? Work was tiring, but I hope everyone's day was good. I got some good news about a stream that's gonna happen hopefully soon. Problem is I need to save money for it. It's a project stream. It's gonna be another one of those nice it's gonna be one of my tech streams, that I have. So, it's gonna be one of those Alma tries to fix a thing and potentially things go wrong stream. One of those. The problem with always like fixing stuff streams like that is that like it is like it's not like I'm getting paid to do these, so I do have to like buy the parts, wait for shipping and stuff like that, that type of thing. But I'll make a more formal announcement for that once I get the parts in. But the concept right now is working, and I'm very excited to I suppose pay a tribute to one of my favorite creators too, But you'll see it in like the near immediate future. Anyway, forget about that. There we go. Okay. Also, just as I guess a reminder, I feel bad for like shilling or whatever, but like an important thing that I did recently was to drop my close like my Streamlabs account. Streamlabs, Stream Elements, which one? Well, both. So I'm kind of more like independent on anything. So if you wanted to give me a tip, if you did, I'm not saying you should, but if you wanted to, there's like a link down at the bottom down there. Yeah, you should like donate if you want. I never do. It's a tip jar, Mainly because like I didn't. You know how like what was it, like a long time ago people were talking about like it was either pretty sure it was like Stream Elements. Yeah, it was Stream Elements, like the founders being kind of yikes on political views. So I'm like, I should probably close my account and like bail from this because I don't want to give them service. And I did, and I swapped over perfectly fine. So, fully independent. Everything is either I made it myself or or through like parties where I get like direct support and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm talking about this. It's not necessary. Anyway. But yeah, that's my life. So we got, this is from Modern Vintage Gamer, and it's about what happened to Windows CE on the Sega Dreamcast. I still wish I had a Dreamcast just to play like Space Channel 5, and probably that's literally the only game I would. Sonic Adventure? Sonic Adventure was on there, right? Fake gamer. Oh boy. Anyway, let's get this started.
In 1998, Microsoft announced its collaboration with Sega on Sega's new Dreamcast home video game system. According to the press release, Microsoft will provide an optimized version of the Microsoft Windows CE operating system and integrated DirectX services as the operating system for use with the Dreamcast. With the inclusion of Windows CE, Dreamcast will bring the benefits of an advanced Windows-based development environment in the world of console game development for the first time. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what Windows CE actually is. Windows CE was Microsoft's operating system for embedded devices and minimal computers. Many believe that it's a cut-down version of Windows, and I've even used this terminology in the past incorrectly. Windows CE is not a cut-down version of Windows. While it looks very familiar to anyone who has used Windows, it runs an entirely different operating system and kernels than Windows did at the time. However, its name does imply and does make it a part of Microsoft's Windows family,
Never had a Sega
which
N64.
included Windows 95, Windows 98, and Windows NT at the time. Microsoft wanted their operating systems available everywhere, and with the emergence of smaller pocket devices and phones, they crafted a specific version of Windows that was bare bones, but still had a familiar look and feel and a familiar SDK to allow Windows programmers to port their applications to Windows CE devices with relative ease.
So Windows CE was made for smaller devices to mimic Windows's aesthetics. So could you say that this was Windows Mobile? There's supposed to be like a sound. There would be like a sound effect of like a thunderstrike here, because I'm implying that Windows Mobile is shit, because it was.
And not only this, Microsoft were also
that
very
works.
interested in entering the console market, with their PC software sales expanding rapidly at this time. The only problem was, when it came to launch day of the Sega Dreamcast, Windows CE was notably absent, except for those words etched on the console when the system came out. Now, depending on where you are in the world, you might either have the words compatible with Windows CE or designed for Windows CE. Now, both of these phrases come with some implications. They suggest that you could take any Windows CE application and run it on the Dreamcast, as the hardware would be running the operating system when you powered on the device. But this is not accurate, and it's not really the fault of the end user. The messaging here was unclear. For the Dreamcast, Microsoft would indeed develop a Windows CE software development kit, or SDK.
Jesus Christ. I forgot that look at the logo for, I forgot the logo for Visual Studio was also just weird as hell. It's like, it's supposed to be like DNA. I think that's what it's supposed to be. But this, my God. Very 90s. Everything is like from a different asset. Like, look at this button.
Internally known as Dragon. At the time,
is that a dragon? Is this a dragon? That doesn't look like a dragon. That looks like a chimera? It's a fucking griffin. Yeah. What?
It was using Visual C++ 6.0, and this predates Visual Studio by a few years. The Dreamcast Windows CE SDK installs on top of this, and if you open up any of the samples, you can see that there is very familiar Win32 code that runs here. But the point here is that Microsoft worked with Sega to develop the Windows CE SDK for the Dreamcast as an easy way to help Windows developers port their games from the PC to the Dreamcast. And the SDK's help guide has a comprehensive FAQ section that answers many questions specifically around why there is a need to actually use Windows CE for the Dreamcast itself. But somewhere between the...
Hold on, I want to go back to that real quick, because it feels a little... This bit feels a little like prophetic in an interesting way. Why should I want to run an operating system on a game console? As the complexity of games and game hardware has increased, the traditional practice of programming the hardware directly has become too expensive and time-consuming. Tools and libraries supplied by console manufacturers can reduce programming burden, but they do not address the increasingly crucial issue of cross-platform development. Meaning, games are being more complicated, more, advanced, and people want to make them for multiple platforms. Windows CE for Dreamcast effectively creates a game development platform that is defined in software terms rather than hardware terms, resulting a measure of hardware independence. Meaning, the code that you're writing for is meant to be processed as is going to be sent to software for commands, not straight up items for hardware to command. Meaning hardware independence means it doesn't necessarily matter what type of hardware you can do as long as it can do the software tasks assigned. A Windows CE for Dreamcast game can, with relatively little effort, be ported to any platform that supports the Win32 and DirectX APIs, including platforms that did not exist when the game was written. One funny example I can probably think off the top of my head is the Xbox, the OG Xbox. The OG Xbox, I'm pretty sure, had support for Windows CE, but also it also supported DirectX. That's the X in Xbox. The resulting reduction in cross-platform development costs, together with the productivity gains associated with using an operating system to provide basic services, are the key benefits of developing games for Windows CE for Dreamcast. And honestly, that's also that's how it turned out with the next generation of game consoles too, and the modern ones too, where a lot of them are basically they're running their own operating system underneath, and then they have the game interface or the program or the user facing interface. It's not kind of a secret that the latest Xboxes do run a variation of Windows, and Sony probably has something along the same lines too. So that's why we can cross-platform release on so many other consoles, instead of having, which is also kind of why I'm it's a little weird thinking about people wanting platform exclusives, because the point of the exclusivity would have been beforehand, point of the exclusivity is oh, this game can only run on this console because of specific this console can do this very specific thing that the other ones can't, so that's why we're making it, right? But that's not a thing anymore, because every console, give or take, can do the same amount, the same type of thing, meaning that there's no real purpose of making it exclusive for one game. And honestly, it seems now that I think about it, it just seems like a not great move on the game studio to have it be a exclusive for a console, especially nowadays when the porting is so easy that the porting to a different console is pretty good. I'm not saying console their different ports are good or bad, but I'm just saying that why wouldn't you? The only reason why is probably if it was an actual deal by the console manufacturer, which is what we are also seeing now with lots of the phrase that's coming out, timed exclusives, that type of thing, where it's oh, it's just a contract, we'll give you a bunch of money if you just keep your game on this platform first and then release to others, but
actually use Windows CE for the Dreamcast itself. But somewhere between the press release in 1998...
Hydro Thunder, my beloved!
Something had changed. Microsoft was nowhere to be found. And the 18 launch titles that arrived for the Dreamcast, none of them would use the Windows CE operating system. Instead, all the games used Sega's own software, which would be known as Katana. As we would learn, the Dreamcast itself came with no operating system.
There's the scrungly menu.
With an IPL, or initial program loader, on board. This manages the boot up sequence and the simple interface to boot games, manage your VMU save files, adjust system settings, and so on. No operating system actually resides on the device until it's loaded in on disk with each game. And this is a significant difference between what was suggested in the 1998 press release. Windows CE Dreamcast titles did eventually appear, but if we go back to our SDK for a moment, rather than the operating system embedded inside the Dreamcast ROM, It's bundled on every game that supported it. This one
Katana was the
file
code name for the
called
Dreamcast.
0winceos.bin is pretty much named exactly what it's supposed to mean. It's the first file that gets booted up and loads up the Windows CE operating system dynamically, and then will load in the game data that it was compiled.
We should play
against.
Hydro Thunder?
And as a
Yeah, I
bonus,
just don't know
any game
how.
that was built using the Windows CE SDK will have the Powered by Windows CE logo on its startup, and those that don't, well, simply doesn't. In the end, there were around 80 titles that use Windows CE on the Dreamcast. Now this isn't insignificant until you learn that there were over 600 Dreamcast titles developed. The majority would use Sega's internal Katana SDK. So what exactly happened here? While there's no definitive reason provided, we can conclude a few things. According to a CNET article, during the launch of the Dreamcast, developers were having trouble adapting to Windows CE. Rainbow Six was intended to be a launch title for the Dreamcast, but it was delayed. However, the company missed the date because of issues surrounding
Shared
the
one
use
for
of
future
Windows
consideration.
CE,
Thank
according
you.
to a spokesperson.
I love
One factor in the
MVG,
delay
so
was a lack of
idea.
experience in targeting Windows CE-based software for use on a game console. Sega's then vice president of third-party development said, "In the lifetime of Dreamcast products, you'll see a lot more folks with PC experience building Windows CE titles." And he estimated around 30% of Sega titles will be Windows CE based. In the end, that percentage was closer to around 13%. Other sources suggested that Microsoft was delayed in bringing Windows CE to the Dreamcast, with its development taking over 2 years to complete, and it simply wasn't ready in time for the Dreamcast launch.
Oh wow,
Yes,
okay. It's
we
Microsoft's
also have
fault.
to talk about the elephant in the room. Many also conclude that Microsoft took whatever they learnt with partnering from Sega and ultimately would use their own customized Windows kernel with DirectX for their own console, the Xbox, that launched in 2001, with many considering the original Xbox to be the spiritual successor to the Dreamcast for this and other reasons. Windows CE sometimes gets a bad rap for
The Xbox was the Dreamcast 2 all along.
holding back games that ran on the Dreamcast, the most famous being Sega Rally 2. Its Dreamcast port is very good, but the CE operating system gets blamed for its frame rate drops, albeit unfairly. The game runs at 60 frames per second but frequently drops to 30 because of its double buffered VSync approach, and it can be quite jarring.
That
And I
actually,
personally
this
don't
looks
think that
really
Windows
good
CE
now.
was actually holding back Sega Rally 2 or any game that was developed with Windows CE SDK. It's very well optimized, and Microsoft and their DirectX technology was very well optimized for video games, and it was something that we said was brought to the original Xbox, and they're still using to this day on the Xbox Series line of consoles.
Crazy,
Outside
right?
of additional memory that was required when the Windows CE operating system was loaded at boot up, I don't believe that Sega Rally 2 could have really been optimized any further at the time. Another notable high-profile game that used the Windows CE SDK was Resident Evil 2. The Dreamcast port is considered one of the better ones. It was ported over from the PC version, runs at a native 640 by 480, supports VGA output, the FMVs run full screen at 30 FPS, textures are not filtered. There is also the inclusion of hard mode, but there are some nitpicks here. There's missing audio, and the reddish filter on most of the backgrounds indicate a texture color conversion, or perhaps it was the closest the developers could come to matching the original's color palette. I should note that none of these issues are related to Windows CE itself. The development team would have used the SDK to quickly port the game from the PC codebase. Ultimately, Sega's choosing to go down a different route than what was originally planned by bundling an operating system with the disc itself rather than on the console is probably what saved the Dreamcast and kept it alive all these years later. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, we know that the Dreamcast lifespan
Veronica was a Dreamcast
short-lived,
exclusive?
but its thriving community that's continuing to build games to this very day uses an open source alternative known as Callistos. It's a very advanced SDK in its feature set and up to date, and even supports modern C++ standards and very optimized 3D graphics APIs, including OpenGL. Consider
This
if Windows
is a
CE
good
was
modern
baked into the
Dreamcast
hardware,
game. Look at that.
things would be very different today, and there may not be the community of developers that are still working on the hardware in the same fashion. It would have suffered from a similar fate to the original Xbox in that binaries were technically illegal to distribute, so I guess it was the right move. And I do hope that this deep dive does help clear up some confusion and misconceptions about Windows CE on the Dreamcast. And if you like this episode and you want to see more similar deep dives in certain topics in the history of video games, please let me know in the comments below. But for now, guys, we're going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.
Yeah, imagine the timeline where Sega continued making consoles and Microsoft now turned the market. We'd still have the Sega Nintendo wars. It would still exist. Like, the main console competitors would be, like, what? So, would be still Sony and the PlayStation, Sega with whatever the heck the next Dreamcast is going to be, and then Nintendo. Because it's so interesting where how much of the games industry was really... we tried to work out a partnership. It didn't work, so fuck it. We're gonna make our own thing with blackjack and hookers, and it kind of worked out. Like, you know, everybody knows about, like, the Nintendo PlayStation, and then this is basically the formation of the Xbox. So it was like, the branches are so interesting. All right, let's see what the next video is. I'm just gonna put this in the playlist. There we go. This one I haven't seen yet, but it is very interesting to me. It's submitted by Sister Rosa, of course, thank you. Do you hear the story about there being Atari branded Xbox? What? Atari branded Xbox? Google time. Oh, it's so orange. I apparently came across a listing of a website that has a variation. Released in Germany in 2014. Oh, it's a contest prize. Prize at Lespig Game Convention in 2004. Attendees needed to collect all 5 pins that Atari gave away, which built Atari. If the attendant was able to find all 5 pins, they could enter the contest, with the winner receiving the one-of-a-kind orange Atari, an Atari shirt. 5 were made, but only 1 came with the extra stuff. Dang. That's super neat. And this is like the only image we have. Like, look at the rarity score. Legendary. What happens if we just search just for crazy stuff? Oh my god. Microsoft Xbox Big X prototype. Oh. That looks like a pain in the ass to carry. Why did they fucking make it like this? It's in aluminum? Oh, this unit is currently on display at the Microsoft Visitor Center in Redmond, Washington. Let's go. You didn't know about this? I didn't know. No. I didn't know that I thought it was a prop. I thought this bullshit was a prop. I didn't expect it to be an actual prototype with stuff in it. I mean, that's the case, but, like, you know what I mean. Like, I didn't expect it to have shit that worked in it. That's stupid. I was expecting them to, like, oh, we're making a giant Xbox. Or, like, we're making a console, and it's an Xbox, and that's what, you know, it's just a fucking statue, not this. Microsoft Xbox, what the fuck? Oh, it's just an it's just an extended Xbox. Oh my god, I feel bad for it. Look at it. It's like it's like a head crab attached to this Xbox and is leeching off of it. Poor baby, you can see how they cut it. I feel bad for this guy. There's no other information on it. Hold on, we're doing a tangent to look at these. Hey, oh my god, Playboy. Oh, and then like these are like, hey, there's the Halo Green one. I wonder what the other rare ones are. Oh my, oh. Slap on some big boobs and have it sell moo. Call it a hex box. Yeah. I'd stick my tongue out you if I had it rigged. You can imagine it. So there's the tart juiced. That Halo 2 one's crystal white. That's cool. That's good. This one's gonna look so bad in the modern age. Like, I'm going to imagine how it wasn't taken care of well, and it's like yellowed as shit. Yeah, like these, I feel kind of worried. These are gonna be like super yellow. Clear color console with MSN engraved on it. How would you get that? And then, ooh, orange. Oh, that's Gamer Fuel orange right there. So these are Gamer Fuel orange. Okay. What? Hold on. I want to see how crazy what Nintendo can get. And I do the Wii U's just as like a joke, just to see what happens, what we got. Ooh, Chibi Robo. And okay, a bunch of it's either dev kits or kiosks. Green. Yeah, a bunch of it's just kiosks now. It's not actually like consoles. Unfortunate. Play Chibi Robo. As soon as when I can figure out a way to do so, I want to. Oh yeah, like, hold on. I bet let's see the Nintendo Wii and like, let's find out if the gold one is here. I have a feeling the gold one's just gonna be here. Oh, the stupid prototype. This fucker. It's so dumb. I forgot they made this. There's a Sega licensed Tetris game that only like 2 or 3 copies. Crazy. Huh. Oh yeah, there it is. The Royal Wii. That this was made for the fucking Queen of England and they did not accept it. And as a publicity stunt, it was made by THQ to promote big family games. It's the funniest. This one is just the funniest story because it was like a publisher trying to be like cool, and it just came out as like stupidly cringe. Like, this is like, hold on. Do you guys want to? Okay, hold on. Royal Wii. That's gonna come up easy. Some of these are not good videos about this. It really worked for THQ, I guess. Yeah, they did such a good job. It was like... Okay, yeah. Did you know gaming? I would consider that reputable. Oh, actually no, more reputable. People make games. Oh, sorry. I should have gave you guys a content warning. Sorry. This video includes British people and the Queen. Okay? Sorry. Sorry, I keep looking at this picture and I only remember a time when a friend edited, like, chroma keyed out her entire outfit and put the Evangelion opening over it during this presentation. Because look how green that outfit is. It's the brightest green in the scene. It's the easiest chroma key. It's the easiest chroma key. The Queen was a brat. No, she's not. Don't say that. Don't give the Queen credit for anything she's ever done ever.
In mid-2009, a gold-plated Nintendo Wii was sent to the actual Queen of England as a gift. Well, I say as a gift. In truth, this was part of a marketing strategy for a title you won't have heard of called Big Family Games. It was a bit like Wii Sports, I suppose, if you're being quite generous, but instead of focusing on your more mainstream activities like tennis or bowling, publisher THQ had made the arguably braver decision of putting together a minigame collection featuring the likes of horseshoes with boats, and everyone's favourite, throwing horseshoes near chickens to get them to move in your preferred direction.
This really isn't very good, is it?
With
What a
interest in the
great
seeming a
game.
little muted ahead of its release, THQ decided to do what all truly great video game publishers must in moments such as these, and they manufactured an entirely superfluous reason for us to talk about it anyway. But how did the Queen get involved? Well, about a year or so before this point, there was an article from the Sunday People, which is a tabloid in the UK, and it quoted its anonymous source within the palace who claimed that Queen Elizabeth II, the head—
Hey, yo, wait, hold the fuck up. Also, that looks terrible. You're right. That logo looks terrible. Fast forward real quick. I saw something on that tabloid, and it's the funniest thing I fucking saw.
And it quoted
How Neopets was sold to Scientologists. The classic story. They're not owned by Scientologists anymore, don't worry.
quoted its anonymous source within the palace who claimed that Queen Elizabeth II, the head of the Commonwealth, bloody—
What the fuck? Who wrote this? They photoshopped that in? It's a UK tabloid. I'm pretty sure they don't need to do that. Also, who's the type editor for this? I need them fired for this. This is awful. Make way for the Queen. No, it's make way for the Queen. Stretching.
He loved to go on Wii bowling. Well, thought the team at THQ, wait until she finds out about horseshoes. Here's the press release they sent out in 2009 entitled, "We are not amused." The royal family is arguably the most important family in the country. So we felt they had to have a copy.
Arguably is a great... Why would you do that? Why would you question the authority of the royal family in a press release?
Of the new game, but we thought that Her Majesty the Queen wouldn't want to play on any old console, so an extra special gold one was commissioned. We hope that she and the rest of the royal family enjoy the game. And of course, this ended up making headlines. As they say at Eurogamer, where I used to work, it's a solid Friday story. You can give it a daft headline, throw in a decent pun like the Royal Wii. That's actually pretty good. And THQ had even provided a picture of the console sitting on a velvet cushion. This stuff basically writes itself. A successful PR stunt this may have been, but it's also a little bit of a fib. You see, this most extravagant of consoles never actually reached Queen Liz. Why not? Well, because you can't just send stuff to the Queen of England.
That's the funniest fucking part.
Actually, you can. There is an address you can write to, but it has to go through her official correspondence team first before it ever reaches her, and they have a fairly strict policy when it comes to gifts, which is, it doesn't matter what it is, for security reasons, the palace will not accept it. That policy does not change even if your gift is gold-plated, as THQ discovered. They did stick to their word, I'm told, and sent the console to Buckingham Palace.
Hey, an Irish person, would have a box would like to send to the Queen. Do not ask further questions. Do not open the box. Ignore the ticking inside.
Original model, just like the rest of us.
Very unwieldy.
And so, because it's almost Christmas and we don't feel like doing a particularly serious video right now, we're here to ask the following question. What happened to the Queen's golden Wii?
Well, it went away after she drank some water.
Well, I say it's almost Christmas. We're actually a little bit past that at this point. Yeah, the next part of the video requires us to get on a plane, and last time we tried to do that, well, this happened.
All flights in and out of Gatwick, Britain's second busiest airport, have been suspended after 2 drones were seen flying near the runway. 10,000...
So, yeah, let's give that another go.
Right, so the first thing that we need to establish is what happened to the Golden Wii once it left Buckingham Palace.
As you may already know, THQ went bankrupt a few years after this actually happened, so there's no longer a point of contact for the publisher who we can talk to. But we're not going to let that stop us. Are we, Annie? If we go back to that original press release,
They really spent money on a golden Wii, sent it to the Queen in hopes,
she was one of
and then
THQ's
died.
product managers at the time. I got in touch with her a few weeks ago asking if she wanted to be a part of this video, and well, she politely declined, explaining that it had been about 10 years since any of this happened and that she didn't have much to say. Anyway, I did end up chatting with several other THQ employees instead, and although I wouldn't say I was greeted with quite the same level of enthusiasm that I have for this story, we did start getting some answers. It turns out after the Palace declined to accept it, the Wii was sent back to one of THQ's offices, and there it would stay. As far as the world knew, Her Majesty was now the proud owner.
Oh my
of
God,
the golden
drawing
Nintendo Wii
tablet.
to match her golden piano. And isn't that a dream worth protecting? Also, let's be honest, it'd be kind of embarrassing to send out a second press release explaining that the royal family had in fact turned away THQ's golden gift. And so for the next 3 years...
I just want to say, I think it's really funny in just like a production sense of just him messing up the line, waiting for the getting off the walkway and then doing it again.
A dream worth protecting. Also, let's
just for the shot.
Embarrassing to send out a second press
This is a funny.
release
This is like a
explaining that the
funny
royal family
shot.
had in fact, turned away THQ's golden gift. And so for the next 3 years,
amazing
that
committal.
really, right up until the moment in which THQ went bankrupt in December of 2012. Around this point, the details get a little bit more hazy. Nobody I've spoken to seems to know what happened to the Wii during this period. But after another 5 years, it does show up again. This time, it's in the possession of a man known online as Dan2K0, a collector who sort of specializes in developer hardware.
Paddington
that's
Bear.
not usually available to the public. He's acquired the Golden Wii along with
Marketable.
a few bits and pieces, once belonging to THQ from a contact of his, and he is looking to sell it. But who even buys something like that?
Oh,
It's not
the
exactly
range
is it?
Jacksepticeye.
I suppose you just need to be the type of person who's really into collecting consoles. So much so that you...
Vegan
I don't know,
sausage
created your
roll
own
from
website
Greg's
called
looking at.
Variations.com, where you and like-minded collectors would catalogue the world's many different types of consoles and colours of consoles, and I guess there's also a decent chance your name would be Donnie, and you'd live in the Netherlands too, so it's a good job that's where we're going.
Insane committal to the bit.
Okay, so we've come to Utrecht in the Netherlands to meet a man about a golden Nintendo. I think he lives here, so we're gonna do the thing where I knock on the door and really hope that it's the right house. Oh, I'll double up. Please be the right house.
What if it wasn't?
Hello, Donnie.
Oh, thank
How's
God.
it going?
Hi,
You
I'm
alright?
good.
Hey, nice to meet you. Oh, thank you very much. Shall I take my shoes? Okay.
Hello.
This is Annie.
Nice to meet you.
Gosh.
Ooh.
Where is
Ooh,
the
Nintendo collector.
Golden Wii? I'm trying to. Oh, okay. It might be in the.
Yo, Club Nintendo Wavebird. Oh my God, I didn't see this one. Is that a? That's a. Oh, that's a charizable fucking Wavebird. That's so good.
The first thing I should have looked at. Oh, cool. Hey, you've got Big Family Games as well. I think you might be the only person in the world that
who actually
displays Big
purchased
Family Games in a case. That's amazing. Have you played it?
Actually, no.
We played it. Well, I played it a little bit.
Hey, wait,
It's-
what's that signed Xbox
It's,
below?
it's
Is
not,
that?
it's not great. Remarkably, Donnie only began collecting consoles about 6 years ago after picking up a Game Boy at a flea market for €5 and has since then spent considerably more than that as he aims to collect, amongst other bits and pieces, one of every colour of every Nintendo system, from the Virtual Boy
Crazy.
to the Switch. Do you have a lot of games as well? Like, is that...
I have a massive collection of 35 games.
You had 35 games.
I have 35 games.
How many consoles do you think you have?
280.
Right, I'm seeing a slight disparity there. There are two different approaches to collecting as far as I can tell, and Donnie actually does a bit of both. The first approach is the one I just described. It's quantitative. Usually the collector will have set themselves a certain numerical goal to hit, like acquiring each of the 25 different coloured versions of the Nintendo 64, and then they work towards that target, picking up different items as they appear for the right price. To be honest...
Hold on, wait, I want to go back. I want to see what those,
They work towards that target, picking up different items.
Oh my god, DDR for the Game Boy! Oh crap, that's a good one.
They appear for the...
Was that an... Wait a minute, wait a fuck second.
They work towards that target, picking up different items.
That's like a special edition, like Advance Wars things. Look at this. It had like a little mug, a DS Fat, and I'm guessing it came in the ammo case. Crazy.
As they appear.
I need to know what this is, though. This one looks super...
For the right price.
I wonder what that
one is. To be
one
honest, I've never quite understood this desire. You seem to either have it...
Yeah, DS Fat.
I probably don't. But the other approach...
Well, no, it's that's not the additional name. The official name was Fat with a PH. Don't ask me why they had it Fat with PH. I genuinely don't know why they named it Fat. The Game Boy Micro was cool. It was cursed, but it's cool.
Now that is something that I can get excited about. Collecting items because of the stories they're a part of. The Golden Wii is a great example of this. But meeting Donnie made me realise something else as well. The origin of this console is kind of cynical, if truth be told. I highly doubt anyone at THQ ever believed that Queen Elizabeth II was going to accept their gift, and I doubt many of the journalists who wrote about it thought that would be the case either.
Wow, that
and that's
rare
okay.
console.
It was a daft PR stunt to make people chuckle on their way to work, and I'm sure it achieved that goal. But 10 years later, I think the Golden Wii now means more than that. It's become the prize at the end of a treasure hunt for Donnie and the other collectors like him, who managed to track down this console after it disappeared for the best part of a decade, and now he keeps it on the top shelf of a display cabinet with a light that reflects the gold onto your face as you peer down for a closer look. The very act of collecting this object has given it value. I'm not talking about money, it was already gold-plated, I'm sure it was worth something, but in
Yeah, he just
2009,
owns that.
this console was just a PR stunt for a game that nobody was really talking about, and now it's more than that. As Donnie will tell you himself, this is the console which nearly belonged to a queen. It's the story, not the gold, that matters to him. And I think that's great. We need people who care about stories to help preserve the history of video games, because before too long, the idea of buying a physical copy of something and popping it in a box that's connected to your telly will seem embarrassingly old-fashioned. But I still want to remember that Panasonic once made a GameCube for Nintendo that was very shiny and could also play DVDs.
It could play
I wanna
DVDs.
have a bash on the Virtual Boy and talk about just how ahead of its time it really was. I want to show people what my childhood was like, I guess. That's often what collecting comes down to at its heart. Here's what
Oh,
things
it's
were
a
like
dev
when I was a
kit.
kid. It was
Oh my god, a
colorful and
Triforce, the
and
arcade
there was
system.
loads and loads of plastic. That's the kind of story too, I suppose. A bigger one than the Queen's Golden Wii, even. But it's hard to see this many things wearing a Nintendo logo and not immediately grasp for your childhood memories. Anyway, here's to the collectors amongst you. Oh, and if any of you happen to come across the golden nunchuck from that original press release photo, do let Donnie know. It disappeared at some point during all of this, and I think he'd rather like the full set.
Kind of crazy that
can't
it's gone
believe we
now.
chased
That's the
this
most
console.
unfortunate thing.
Across an ocean.
It must be so heavy.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you've had a lovely start to 2019 so far. We got some really exciting plans for the channel this year, we think, and we can't wait to show you
Wow,
what those
2019
plans are
video.
when they're done. All right, good. See you soon. Bye.
Man, what a great game.
Slide it in.
God. So bad. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to the playlist we got here. We got something good. Plot twisted nunchuck as the gamer caliber. Okay, the next one. Let me see here. Oh, this video is yeah. This one's from Sister Rose. Like I forgot to mention. It's labeled JPEG is dying, and that's a bad thing. Which is I haven't heard about this topic, so let's find out. Like, I mean, yes, it's being less commonly used, but I'm just kind of curious, you know? Web.
Poo bums.
Is it specifically like a WebP thing?
Everyone knows what JPEG is, but just in case you somehow missed the memo, it is an
Do
image
I
format
look-
that's been around for about 30 years.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
It's normally a lossy format, meaning that images saved in this way lose a bit of their quality, but their file sizes are much smaller, making it more convenient to share and to store files in the JPEG format than in lossless and much bigger formats like PNG and bitmap.
Yeah, I
JPEG
hate
saves
those so
file
much.
sizes by dropping the quality of the image where it thinks it won't be noticed. This isn't JPEG's fault, and you can customize how much you want to compress the image by. But this has unfortunately worked against its reputation, and these days, JPEG is used as an insult when an image looks low in quality or has been overly compressed too many times. But we have a lot to thank JPEG for it's been widely supported, it's easy to run, and it's generally been good enough to serve our image needs for decades. But it risks being killed off. Thanks to advancements in hardware power and improved compression algorithms and all that exciting stuff, we can now get images that are both smaller in file size and higher in quality than JPEG is. There are superior, newer, and even newer types of, newer standards than JPEG like WebP and HEIC, and even newer types of JPEG like JPEG LS, JPEG 2000, JPEG XR, and most recently JPEG XL. And that's the exciting one.
All of those sound like Street Fighter acronyms or something like. Hold on. They all sound like acronyms for like King of Fighter game or something. Now they sound like streams you'd find on more Blue Twitch.
And it would make for a very sensible new
Are you sure? I feel like JPEG 2000 just sounds like King of Fighters.
standard for everyone to use instead of the original JPEG, because it behaves like JPEG, it smells like JPEG, tastes like JPEG, and is better at compressing images. Also, it remains backwards compatible, which is incredibly handy.
Whoa.
For instance, you can get all of your old
Maybe in
JPEG
SF2.
images,
Yeah,
and rather than
it's
have
definitely
to
SF2.
encode them again into a new standard and lose even more quality, you can simply make them into JPEG XLs, and it will make them slightly smaller in file size whilst losing none of the quality. How cool is that?
Cool.
For a video about image formats, it's kind of exciting.
Yay.
It's safe to say that JPEG XL is the sensible new standard that we should all be moving to.
But
But we're not.
okay.
For AVIF is here to ruin JPEG today. And in a way, this video that you're watching right now is part of the problem. For videos on YouTube are gradually being moved over to the new
This
AVIF,
man is shrimping so.
which is very good. The videos in this
Oh, don't
format
be
are
mean to
high in
him.
quality and small in file size, so it makes sense that since videos are essentially a bunch of images, we can get whatever's making these videos so good and use them to make really good images as well, right? And that's what the AVIF image format is. It's the image bit of the AV1 video standard. This makes this requirement
Oh.
slightly different to JPEG. Whereas JPEG attempts to strike. Please don't stand on my computer. She's adorable.
Yeah, cat. Woo!
Put it simply,
Okay.
AVIF's party trick is to deliver the absolute best image compression, resulting in the tiniest file sizes possible. So if that's your jam, then you should support AVIF over JPEG XL.
Yeah.
However, JPEG XL wins in virtually every other way. And according to some
Oh God,
sources
this is
online,
just
it's
a
even
nerd
better
file
than
format
AVIF
war.
is at compressing images.
Oh God.
Although that's not really what I saw in my tests, but okay, whatever.
Oh, God.
And while AVIF is just the image bit of a very clever video standard,
Oh,
JPEG
God.
XL is a full-blown image format. And that matters more than you might expect. For instance, AVIF maxes out at 12 bits per color channel and 8K resolution. It can go beyond that, but then it begins to tile images together, which could result in distracting joints between each tile due to compression. Meanwhile, JPEG XL supports up to 32 bits per color channel and a resolution support that's so great it may as well be infinite. It's very much a standard built for the future, while AVIF seems optimized for
that's pretty
today's use
good.
cases, which is fine for 99.9% of people and situations, but it is a bit worrying it's already neglecting that remaining 0.1%. JPEG XL isn't just more future-proof, it's also a lot more functional over the internet. It's currently easier for computers to create these images and to view them back again, meaning lower hardware requirements and less power being used to view JPEG XL images compared with AVIF ones.
Okay,
Although
okay.
as hardware progresses, this difference will matter less and
You're
less.
selling me so
JPEG
far.
XL also supports a handy feature called progressive decoding. Before you can view an AVIF image online, it has to load the entire thing, but JPEG XL can display a low-quality version of the whole image after just 15% of the image is loaded.
What?
And then it can gradually fill in the rest with more details as and when they're loaded in. And it can even prioritize the most
Pop-in
important bits of the image
textures?
to load in high quality first. It's witchcraft. This makes it very
Oh my
simple
God,
for
the
web
shade-
browsing and
the
folding and
textures are
scrolling
loading
through
in
them
real
quickly.
time.
You just need placeholder images rather than blank sections. And this is especially useful on lower speed internet connections. So you'd think it would be a no-brainer.
That's
for the
fucking
world to
cool,
move on to
actually.
JPEG
What?
XL. And yet, the internet has seemingly spoken, and it's decided it wants AVIF instead. And by the internet, I mean Google, whose Chrome browser dropped support for JPEG XL back in February 2023. And as you might know, since most browsers are based on Chromium,
Ah,
it
fuck,
doesn't
not
bode well
again.
for JPEG XL support. All this makes
Oh.
this particular study all the more interesting, since it's the one place on the internet
Not
that
this
seems to
sh-
heavily
not this
favour
again.
AVIF over JPEG XL. It appears
Is the
to have been
buffering on
done
my
by
end or
the
your- I
AVIF
believe it might be
team.
on your
It's
end.
based on sample sizes of 24 and 48 images, and it comes to the conclusion again and again that AVIF is superior to JPEG XL. It shows that it's faster at creating images, faster to display them, and that AVIF delivers superior image quality at the same file size.
The fuck is Turbo JPEG? Okay, you're right. These are Street Fighter 2 sub games. Turbo JPEG.
Which seems to go against everything else I've read about it online. It even shows progressive decoder slowing down the decode performance of JPEG XL, which I thought was interesting given that clearly the benefits of progressive decode outweigh any of these negatives that are seen in these charts. The only thing this study shows JPEG XL beating AVIF at is in compressing lossless images, which isn't exactly something that the internet prioritizes. So I'm not saying that this is the study that killed JPEG XL support in Chrome. I'm just saying it's pretty much the only available resource that could justify why it was killed. And it was published just 2 months before support for it was dropped.
I mean, I'd say it's more.
But don't worry, there's always
Chrome,
Firefox,
I guess.
although even they have remained quiet about JPEG XL, wanting to remain neutral on this topic. Apple's all for it though, with their Safari browser supporting both AVIF and the JPEG XL standards.
okay.
And Microsoft are gradually rolling out support for JPEG XL in their operating systems as well, though it's so
Ooh,
difficult to
okay.
use either of them in Windows 11 just yet that I'm not going to give the win to either of them. And I should know, because I've tried it already. A year ago, I settled on AVIF as being the standard I'd dabble with, simply because it compresses so damn well. You see, my parents have over 90,000 pictures, and it's reaching the point where the whole backup is filling up their tiny little hard drives, and it's becoming difficult for them to create new backups from. And
Oh
to
my
share them
god, that
with
oh my god, that
so
compression.
for fun, I converted all 90,000 of their pictures to AVIF, and I got over 400 gigabytes of JPEGs down to roughly 100 gigabytes in AVIF files, with minimal drop in quality. You lose the
Holy
grain,
crap!
but I don't always see that as a bad thing. I also messed around with HDR images and was quite happy with the quality of a 1 megabyte 4K image. So while I agree that AVIF is a horribly flawed and limited and half-baked image format, if it's for anyone then it's probably for someone like me. However, the sheer lack of support for the image file, the broken thumbnails, how broken HDR itself is in Windows, and knowing just how many problems it would cause for the people I'd be sharing these AVIF images with for the years to come, I think it's going to be many years before either new format is going to be ready to replace good old JPEG. But it does look like we're heading towards a future where AVIF is the standard online, just because the images will be the smallest file sizes, and because Google's pushing for it, while JPEG XL will be the standard for anybody serious about image quality to stick to, because it's so much more robust and future-proof.
There are 15 competing
Someone should create
standards.
an even
Yay!
new, even better standard to unite all these formats once more.
Oh, also, hold on. Required watching.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I just want a picture.
There we go. That's all we needed. Thank you. Okay, next video. This one I thought was fun. This one is a who here likes, hey, do you guys remember like that meme that people were talking about like trebuchets and how they were able to fire like a 200 kilogram object over 300 meters or whatever? Good meme. That one. Let's find somebody who basically, I want to say, made a better version of a trebuchet to incredibly terrifying results. This is by Tom Stanton. They make a lot of like engineering-y type videos, as you can see. I think I've shown some of their content here on Finding Out Friday beforehand, but this one really caught my eye because this one isn't too hard to understand from the principle of it, and I love how it works. But a flywheel trebuchet.
A trebuchet stores energy by raising a counterweight, which when released converts its gravitational potential energy into kinetic energy. But what if there was a way to store this energy as kinetic energy before release, in something like a flywheel? Let's make a flywheel trebuchet.
Unfortunately, my old trebuchet hasn't aged very well, and the plywood section
We're like, what, 30 seconds in, and this man has already admitted that he does just have a trebuchet.
sections are falling apart. So I've decided to make this new trebuchet completely.
He just has one.
The frame will be built using these.
He just made one.
Them, allowing these nuts to slot in and clamp down, giving lots of flexibility for mounting positions. The frame design will be an equilateral triangle for maximum strength, which means cutting custom 60-degree angle plates to join the sections together. Once the two frame halves are assembled, the cross-joint extrusions could be attached with a 90-degree bracket, and it's already starting to look like a trebuchet. It's probably a bit overkill for this project, but with the extrusions being so adjustable, it can be reused for future trebuchet experiments. The arms are made from 25 by 50mm rectangular tube section, as these need to be strong to survive the huge amount of force accelerating a tennis ball so fast. The official world's fastest tennis serve was 157 miles per hour.
Alright, let's beat that.
And to put that into perspective,
also, oh my god, a human did that.
Topping out at 124 miles per hour.
Oof. I love the whip noise it makes.
The 60-gram ball will undergo a centripetal acceleration of at least 265 Gs, which is equivalent of hanging a 27-kilogram weight from the end of the arm, which according to my stress analysis can bend this arm by 4mm at the tip. I then added bearings to the arms, which allowed the whole assembly to be mounted to the axle. With a small push, everything seemed to run smooth, but it needs some balancing. Instead of mounting another long arm to the opposite end, I decided to use a counterweight, because at high speed I expect the arm to produce quite a lot of drag, so having only one arm will reduce the amount of energy required to spin it. The balance isn't perfect, but it's far better, and I'll balance it properly once the flywheel is mounted. There's just one problem: I need a method of spinning it faster. So I 3D printed a pulley which mounts to the arm, then a timing belt can be used to drive it from an external source, and I mounted a secondary axle and larger pulley to the frame. And using the slot nuts, the belt could be correctly tensioned. I could then attach a crank handle to the end of the secondary shaft and wind it up to speed. But first, let's build the flywheel.
Physics class? I don't want to do this in physics class.
And it will have a diameter of 800mm.
This is honestly, you know what? No, Sippy, you're right. This is a pretty good physics class experiment. We are effectively translating rotational kinetic energy into just directional kinetic energy.
But because that's too large to fit on my CNC router, I've decided to cut it in 4 pieces. Each section can then be bolted to the arms to produce a large flywheel ring, and the unsuspecting opposition has yet to recognise the potential of this machine. So tomorrow we can attach the projectile slinging components and get on with the testing. Unlike traditional trebuchets, the projectile will be constantly moving with the arm, so it needs to be held in position until a trigger is pulled. This nylon strap is sprung-loaded to clamp the ball in position and is attached to a small hook near the axle. To trigger this latch to release, I built this contraption that moves into the path of the hook as the flywheel rotates, so the trigger can be pulled at any point during the flywheel's rotation, and the ball will always release at just the right time. And this release contraption can also be advanced or delayed by sliding it up and down on the frame to get the most optimal release angle.
I'll be real, this is like, I want to see how he designed this, because like, all this engineering behind it is so well done already.
I then placed the ball in the sling and attached the sling strings.
I will criticize him for having such an incredibly important part be 3D printed this bit, because that's a lot of energy in that thing.
Optimal release angle.
That's either going to melt or shatter into a million pieces.
Sling strings to the end of the arm. A trebuchet sling has 2 attachment points. One is fixed to the end of the main arm, and the other is loose, but is hooked over this pin. Then as the projectile swings round, The loop slides off the end of the pin and releases the projectile. Time for a first test, albeit a slow test, as I haven't made the crank handle yet.
And
Uh,
I should probably pin this to the ground. It seems
Turns
like
out all
the
these
weight of the
trebuchet experiments
flywheel
are to figure out how to
this
fling James Corden as
pulley and has
possible speed into
destroyed
the
it.
Irish
But
Sea.
nothing else seems to be broken.
We don't
so
need to
we'll
fling him
give
like
this
that. We need
another
to
test by hand.
slam dunk
In 3,
James Corden
2,
into the Mariana
1.
Trench. Whee! I don't even know where the ball went.
That actually went pretty far for the first test being so slow. Right, so I now have the crank handle on here, and also I've fixed the pulley, which is now half aluminium, half 3D printed. So we should be able to get up to some pretty high RPM.
Everyone show this video to their GM. God, that noise is so cool sounding.
This slow-mo was filmed at 1,500
Look at us
frames
go.
per second and has been slowed down 60 times. Using the length of the arm as a reference, we can measure that the ball travelled 1.44 meters in 22 milliseconds.
Like,
So
a
by dividing
trebuchet
the
is
distance
terrifying
by the
enough. It's
time,
just more
we get a
terrifying that it's a giant
calculation of
spinning object.
65.5 meters per second, or 146 miles per hour, which is 22
Why stop
miles
at James Corden, fling Jamie Oliver while we're at? That is also correct. We need to get James Corden and Jamie Oliver in like a bathysphere and fling them into the sun. Fling chicken nuggets at him. Yeah, no, he'll melt like the Wicked Witch of the West when you dump water on her. Just throw him a chicken nugget and say you like these, and he just fucking explodes.
per hour faster.
I'm still at it.
But it's still 11
hate him
miles
so
per hour
much,
slower
man.
than the world's fastest tennis serve.
Pew! Oh my
The fact that it's
god.
the tennis ball faster than this is just insane.
So today we are going to beat the world record tennis serve. I reckon the most optimal release point is when the sling is in line with the arm, because then it's at the largest radius from the main axle.
What other
So what
people
I've done
should
is
we
I've set the trigger to release the
we
ball
fling with this
earlier, dropped from
with
the
this
arm earlier,
trebuchet?
and then the sling to open up later.
God, I want one of
So
these.
still have the same trajectory, but just hopefully slightly faster.
That's gonna hurt
didn't even
someone
see where that
so
went.
bad.
Managed to snap the
Oof.
sling though.
Oh,
That
it
went
broke the
forward.
sling. It broke nylon.
Wow. Let's check the high-speed footage. Then I'll need to rebuild that sling. Right, so according to the high-speed footage, the ball travelled 0.82 meters in 10 frames. So that's
Peak-
a hundredth of a second.
Peak acceleration 368 G's. Holy shit. 400 G's for the poor tennis ball. It must be shaped like a goddamn pancake.
That means it went 82 meters per second in miles per hour. That's
How fast is that?
184.
Yo! 200 mile per hour tennis ball.
I think we need to redo that test, and this time I'm going to make sure that my hand is completely off of the crank handle before the tennis ball is released, just to prove that it's purely the inertia of the flywheel.
At the point my hand
Oh,
stops
look at
applying
it go.
power, the flywheel is spinning at 263 RPM. And I know from my CAD model that its moment of inertia is 1.1 kilogram meters squared.
I'm absolutely also baffled that they just have this in the 3D modeling programs that he makes this in, and I'm like, it just did the math for you. Holy crap, it's so cool.
From this, we can calculate the flywheel has a stored energy of 419 joules. That's equivalent to raising a 39 kilogram counterweight to the height of the axle. But this flywheel
okay.
only weighs about 18% of that, at 7 kilograms. Once
Efficiency?
the ball is released, it leaves the sling with a kinetic energy of 132 joules, meaning the usable energy efficiency is just 31%.
This is only 30% of its power. It's only 30%. 30% transferred into the ball. Finally, a device that can match the guy that exploded a bird with a baseball. Shoot, I want actually. I want to hold on. Can someone look? I want to. You know, I'm saying, can someone look? When the answer is, I'm just going to look it up. What was it? Bird exploded by baseball speed. Yeah. Randy Johnson hits a bird. Just... You guys want to see a magic trick? Bam! Just... How fast... Like... It also, like, defeathered the bird, which is terrifying. I feel bad for the bird, obviously, but at least he didn't see it coming. Also, something interesting to also note here is that when the... Like, okay, so imagine the ball, and the bird gets hit by it, right? Look how fast that ball just straight up just... Look how much... Like, look how the ball just drops to the ground immediately after. So, like, all the kinetic energy that was, like, in that ball just straight up just went to the bird, and the ball just, like, I'm out. It almost looks like the bird's like a roast chicken or something with how much feathers it lost. It's terrifying. But, like, oh, there it is. How fast... Oh, there we go. How fast was the pitch that killed that bird? There it is. There was never confirmed speed. However, Cronkite News in Arizona estimated the fastball was around 100 miles per hour. So this is 50% faster than that. So this, instead of killing the bird, would probably at least definitely cook it. Just a little bit. Oops, hold on. I think this is about where we were. Hold on. Where were we? Shoot. Oh, and no, my bad. It was about here.
This flywheel only weighs about 18% of
My
that
bad.
at 7 kilograms. Once the ball is released, it leaves a sling with a
Analog railgun? We'll have an actual railgun in the Finding a Friday playlist.
Usable energy efficiency is just 31%. However, the flywheel is still spinning with an energy of 79 joules. And I reckon if we increase the mass of the projectile, we can extract that last remaining amount of energy.
See, so there's like inefficiencies in the system that he's describing, which is cool. So, like...
With an energy of 79 joules.
Because the flywheel's still spinning, obviously there's still energy in here that wasn't used up by the projectile, like, used by sending the projectile over, so that's...
And I reckon if we increase the mass of the projectile, we can extract that last remaining amount of energy.
That went high.
So we're increasing the weight so the energy transfers better.
Doesn't quite stop it, so we need to increase the weight a bit more. But it's getting close.
Watch the flywheel though, it's terrifying.
Right, so this is now 180 gram tennis ball, which is about 3 times the weight of a standard tennis ball.
Just fucking stops on a dime.
That's so weird to watch.
At the point of trigger release, the flywheel slows to almost a dead stop in 1/6 of a second, losing 99.5% of its energy. What's interesting about this is the flywheel on the left has twice the stored energy to begin with, but the projectiles leave the sling with almost the same kinetic energy. So the heavier projectile on the right is travelling quite a bit slower, but still launches about 20% further due to it being affected less by air resistance. Seeing as this flywheel trebuchet likes projectiles a little heavier than a tennis ball, maybe I need to get some baseballs and stick a motor on this thing. But for now, I'm very happy with
Garden Warfare throwing an apple.
Video, it'd be great if you could leave a thumbs up down below. If you're new to my channel and want to see other projects similar to this, then please click subscribe down below. And a massive thank you to all of my supporters over on patreon.com for making the...
Like, he makes just kind of fun stuff, like, engineering-wise. Oh, I forgot. Actually, yeah, this is actually one of our videos that we were going to watch anyway, so we might as well watch it. Yeah, it was one of the electromagnetic ones. Give me a second. I need to double check which one it was supposed to be. Okay, it's this first one. So, okay, we've seen what this man can do with traditional quote unquote weapons. So let's see what he can do with something a bit more modern.
This is a radio-controlled plane being launched only by electricity and magnets along an electromagnetic rail launcher.
Someone said railgun. Here's the railgun.
Carrier launch system. Now, I built a similar launcher a few years ago that was only able to fire paper planes and some small gliders. And this old launcher required some complex electronics to work. But I've got an idea to make it purely mechanical, which will hopefully make it simpler and more powerful. Okay, here is the first prototype. I've got these 4 magnets mounted to this rail. These first 2 magnets have matching pole directions, and the second pair are flipped, so their pole direction goes the opposite way. This way, if I have some coils on a sled and apply some power to the coils, it should create an electromagnet that will repel the first 2 magnets and be attracted to the second pair of magnets. So let's place it in position and just short some wires across these coils.
Alright, railgun. Pew!
Oh wow, that actually launched better than expected. So I've now mounted 2 metal strips either side of the rail, and I've also made a new sled with these metal strips that hang off the rear, in the hope that these will make contact with the contacts on the rail and apply power to the coils. So let's slowly push them into the coils and see if it launches. What I love about this design is it's purely mechanically timed, as the position and length of the strip can be adjusted to power on and off the coils at just the right time to accelerate the sled. But these contact strips aren't ideal, as they need to be perfectly aligned to make good electrical contact with the strips on the rail. But I think I know a solution. I'm sure many of you have played with scalextric cars before, where they drive along a track with a thin metal strip down the centre
Slot cars.
that applies power to the electric motor within the car via these very small brushes on the underside. Now these brushes work much better than the contact strips on my launcher because they conform to the track far better, making a good electrical contact. So I bought a pack of official scalextric brushes to test on the sled. Only one small issue: they can't be soldered, as they just wick the solder along the brush and make it a solid piece. The easiest solution I could find for this was to use a metal strip folded over to create a custom crimp, which could then be soldered to, without the solder directly touching the brush. And with the brushes mounted to the sled, it works pretty well.
Why do I have a need to look at old 90s and early 2000s? Do you just miss slot cars for you? I think that's what it sounds like.
Designing and built
I miss
this.
slot cars
It's
too.
essentially the same as the first prototype.
Never had enough
but
space for
has
those
twice the number
though.
of magnets and 4 times the number of contacts. The reason why it has far more contacts is because it's wired to switch the polarity of the coils as it passes each pair of magnets, creating an alternating current, which should cause it to attract and repel each magnet pair, creating 4 points of boost along this short section. I've also greatly simplified the sled with just a single coil in the centre, which allows for a thinner rail, so the magnets can be closer together and the sled will be slightly lighter. Also, with the official scalextric brushes costing £3.50 for this pack of 6,
Oh dang,
which is only
that's kind of
18
annoying.
centimetres worth of brushes, I found I could buy this solder wick, which is just braided copper ribbon that costs just £3.40 for 1.5 metres. So about 1/8 the price per centimetre. And this new prototype is looking really promising. It's so cool watching this thing spark along the rail as it accelerates up to speed. However, I did notice some marks on the metal contacts. This isn't a huge issue, as these strips are made from nickel, which has a far higher melting temperature than the copper brushes, so I think it's mostly molten copper depositing on them. But it would be nice to have the contacts replaceable on the final launcher. Also, launching the sled by just pushing it into the contacts isn't ideal, as the repelling force on the first magnets is strong enough
Look
to
at all
bend
those
the
sparks.
print, causing the brushes to disconnect and, well, some pretty bad sparking. So I'll need to make a high power switch to initiate the launch. For the final design, I printed the magnet mounts on the Formlabs Form 4, as it prints parts using a UV curable resin, which should be more rigid than the previous magnet mounts and hopefully prevent any flex that causes the brushes to disconnect. Plus, the transparency looks really nice. Then I crimped some copper braid that can be soldered to the main power wires and bent into a C shape to mount inside the brackets. The reason for this is to have the metal contact strips easily replaceable, so by bending them to a specific angle, they can slot into the mount without the need for solder, making it easy to pop out and replace if they get damaged. The next step is to prepare the rail by drilling a bunch of holes along its length, which will let the wires pass through for the alternating polarity. And I mounted a long copper bar to either side of the rail that will supply power to all the contacts. Then the magnet and contact bracket can be attached and soldered up. So now we have the positive bar on this side with the negative wires passing through the holes to the other copper bar on the other side. Then if we connect a power supply to one bar, push the sled into position and connect power to the other bar, the sled should launch.
Oh god!
This looks awesome in the dark.
So fast.
I now just need to repeat this design another 9 more times for a total of 80 magnets and 80 contacts to see how fast this thing will go, which took about 6.5 hours and probably would have been quicker if I soldered directly to the contacts, but having the contacts replaceable will make it far easier in the future
much work.
if it needs fixing. Then the parts can be mounted to the rail, then soldered up, and finally mounting the magnets with alternating north and south poles. Now all it needs is a high power switch to act as a trigger for firing the sled. I started printing the switch on my Prusa XL with its tool changing capabilities, which allows me to print flexible hinges, as I want this switch to have a spring loaded arm that can be cocked back to load the launcher.
Yeah, 3D
and this
printing!
flexible hinge will act as the latch that will hold the switch open, meaning it only requires 2 prints and a few small components to complete.
Ding.
It just needs a slight adjustment to the design as this doesn't latch reliably. So this new design has the spring underneath to make it more compact, and the latch now works perfectly. I then mounted it to the launcher and soldered up the contacts, as well as printing a launch button. So with the sled on the rail, it's ready to fire. But there's a problem. Watching the switch in slow motion reveals there is a lot of bounce due to the momentum of the arm when it hits the contacts, which might not seem like a big deal as it's barely visible to the human eye. But in terms of the sled acceleration, it almost completely skips the first few pairs of magnets.
You can actually
and the sparks don't.
You can kind of actually see it. You could see the sled slow down.
The
Hold up.
contacts, which might not seem like a big deal as it's barely visible to the human eye. But in terms of the sled acceleration,
it's immediately slows down.
Magnets,
You
and
can
the
see it like
sparks don't
chug.
leave the switch contacts in good condition. I spent the next day or so trying different ideas to prevent this bounce, but nothing seemed to work. Until I remembered a switch I used in a previous project called a reed switch. This switch is essentially 2 metal contacts that are attracted together when a magnet is placed nearby. Now this tiny reed switch is only rated for 0.5 amp, which is nowhere near enough for this launcher. But maybe I can make my own, which could handle the current. This new switch has 2 metal strips that are separated by a very small gap, with a small magnet placed on top, as well as a magnet on the arm. Then as the arm swings up, it pulls the 2 strips together, completing the circuit.
Not bad.
And in slow motion, it's clear it bounces far less than the previous designs. So I modified it slightly to prevent the live metal strips from being exposed, as well as covering the copper bars that supply the power to the contact.
Yay, safety!
And now the launcher is complete.
Not getting electrocuted. Woo!
It's not sound good.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1.
Look at just sparking all the way down. Look at
It's like it's got afterburners on.
Oh, that's so cool.
Ooh, it took off at the perfect time.
I know, I made it.
You got the trim just right. Firing a grape in 3, 2, 1. Oh, that was a splat.
I love the crash test. I love the grape crash test so much. It looks like it looks like a cartoon.
Good.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1. Wow.
The grape is so funny to me because it really does just kind of look like Wile E. Coyote just smashing against the wall.
You got the trim just right.
Or show their GM the grape railgun. Like, watch this. Just look at the grape.
1. Oh, that was a splat. That was a...
Oh
my god.
Grape
It absorbed all the
Potato
energy
gun
instead
is
of
out.
sitting in
Grape
the rail.
railgun is in.
Oh, no,
Grape rail. No.
Looks okay.
Potato gun is basically a cannonball. Grape railgun is a sniper rifle.
Multiple grapes, mate. In 3.
Oh no, multiple
2,
grapes.
1. Triple grape.
Oh, it's 2 of them. 2 of them lived.
Oh, one didn't splat. Oh, one's on the top.
Yeah.
One's on the top.
Woohoo.
How did it end up there?
I need slow mo.
Wait.
Oh, wait, so one got nailed. There's only one.
There's no way.
Douche.
I can't believe I actually sliced it.
No, so what happened was during what was it? Call that grape shot. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
Oh, wait.
So there was only one grape. So in the course of it traveling, the 2 kind of like fell out but had momentum. So they're like trailing behind right now.
Wait, so one got nailed.
And
There's
then
only one.
pop.
Oh, the rebound.
There's no way.
I love how atomized the first grape is, though. That's so cool.
What you doing, Tom?
Tally-ho, lads, I shout as I fire my homemade railgun loaded with grape shot. Just as the founding fathers intended.
No. It's like a word.
The hot dog did not make anything funny, though.
What would you call this? The bullet train sled.
Bullet train sled.
Loaded in.
2, 1.
Don't even know what happened to it. Oh! It split it in half!
1.
That one's just funny.
The launcher may be complete, but there's still some work to be done on the sled. So I built 4 new sleds, each with a different number of wire turns per coil.
They did surgery on a grape. No, they did crash test analysis on a grape. Oh, fuck me. Oh.
And to measure
I love the
speed
noise it
accurately,
makes.
I printed this tracking marker that could be mounted to each sled.
Hold up. No, give me the railgun ASMR again. I want to hear it.
To 400 turns, to see how this affects the speed. And to measure the speed accurately, I printed this tracking marker that can be mounted to each sled. Then once filmed in slow motion, I can import the footage into a video tracker software that will measure its speed along the length of the rail.
Can we talk about how cool this software is? I didn't even know this dang existed until, like, I saw this video. Like, just... You import video footage, give it the tracker, and then just let it play, and it charts out... Look what's on down here. I'll move. Hold on. It has it charted out, as in, like, the time and then the speed at which it was going, and it charts it out for you. Like, that's so cool.
I then repeated this test at...
Like, you'd have to do that by hand. We can do this by just analyzing the footage now and putting in software. Isn't that cool?
16 volts, 32 volts, and 48 volts. And aside from the sparks getting larger with the higher voltage, it's clear the 200-turn sled always wins the race. Now in theory, more turns of wire should create a stronger electromagnet, but what this doesn't take into account is the mass of each coil, as the 400-turn coil is far heavier than the 100-turn. So it's a fine balance between the strength of the electromagnet and the mass of the sled. However, we can use the tracking software to measure acceleration, and because we know the mass of each sled, we can use Newton's second law of motion, force equals mass times acceleration, to
We're learning!
the force produced by the magnet.
Yeah!
And this reveals that the 400-turn sled produces the largest force, meaning that if all sleds were equal in mass, we'd have a clear winner. Also, more turns of wire results in higher resistance, and therefore the current passing through the coil...
Yeah, basic high school science! Woohoo!
As with the 100-turn
We're
sled,
doing
there is
something!
nearly 90 amps of current passing through the coil at 48 volts, which destroys the brushes.
Oh my god,
I
it's
then modified
melted.
the sled so the brushes are replaceable, as they're clamped in position using a single bolt. Therefore, if they need replacing, I can simply loosen the bolt and solder on some new brushes. I was hoping this launcher would reach far higher velocities than my old launcher, as there aren't any sensitive electronics to limit the voltage. But with 3 times the input voltage, the fastest sled only reaches 44 miles per hour. Just
only
miles per hour faster than my old launcher. However, what this new design can handle is more current.
Therefore, we can design a sled with multiple coils that will hopefully produce far higher magnetic forces for launching much heavier projectiles. So instead of launching paper planes and very lightweight 3D printed planes, let's try launching a fully radio-controlled plane. This plane is one of the lightest radio-controlled aircraft I own at just 138 grams.
It's kind of cool.
It will still be the heaviest
This is
thing
like
I've
not
launched
related,
using
but this is
magnets.
very cool.
And with the 400-ton sled producing a forward force of 6.7 newtons, 2 coils should, in theory, be enough to get this plane up to around 9 meters per second, which should be plenty of speed to get it airborne. So I created a 3D CAD model of the plane's fuselage, and this allows me to easily design a mount that should hold it to the sled. Then the model can be exported and 3D printed, which fits the plane perfectly.
I love seeing slow-mo cam impact something solid just become liquid. Yeah,
So
that
with
is
the new
good.
double coil sled all ready to test, I thought I should probably run a quick test with a dummy weight, just to test my calculations.
Don't do this, by the way, because you are chucking something 20 miles an hour.
So
You are chucking pliers at 20 miles an hour. Don't do that.
Hopefully do some flying.
Launch. Oh my god! Look it go. And it takes off.
The total mass of the plane and sled is
Fuck
250
yeah.
grams and reaches a speed of 10.2 meters per second, or 22.8 miles per hour in a tenth of a second.
Wow.
Which is surprisingly faster than my estimation.
Oh!
It may not be the most practical.
I want to watch that again. That was fucking cool. The plane, the rotors going is so fucking good.
220 grams and reaches a speed of 10.2 meters per second, or 22.8 miles
Oh, I
per
love
hour
that. The force of the launch pushes the propellers back,
in
and
a tenth of
then
a second,
it
which is
launches the
surprisingly
propellers.
faster than my estimation.
So cool.
It may not be the most practical method of launching a model aircraft, but in my opinion, it's one of the coolest. Thanks for watching.
Power variant of the W2 plane flinger that cruisers. I mean, they still have those, and you mean the ones about the launchers, right? Like the what was it? Aircraft carrier takeoff. I'm pretty sure that these are... Oh, there we go. Actually, hey, we might as well watch it since we want to know how these work in real life, too. My ears. I'm pretty sure it's pneumatic, or hydraulic, but let's find out. Oh, I meant the Cranards on old boats, but more or less the same thing.
Aircraft carriers are one of the largest examples of naval force in the entire world. They're massive floating cities with the ability to carry airplanes into battlefields around the world.
Sir, I don't need the
But how can
propaganda.
these planes take off from such short runways, let alone land on ships in the middle of an ocean?
That is sort of AI.
The answer lies with the aircraft catapult system used by
Actually,
most
no. I think that's just a person.
On land, planes utilize long runways to gain the speed needed for takeoff. However, on an aircraft carrier, the runways are much shorter, around 300 feet, compared to the 2,300 feet needed for a normal aircraft to take off. Instead of distance, a catapult is used to give the plane enough speed for takeoff. The catapult system doesn't seem like much when you see it on the deck of a ship. It looks like a line of track with a connection to the front landing gear of the plane, but it's capable of accelerating the craft from 0 to 165 knots in less than 2.5 seconds. That capability is only possible thanks to the impressive below-decks engineering of the catapult system. Before an aircraft is launched, high-pressure steam is collected in large accumulator tanks. This steam is siphoned off from the nuclear reactors aboard the ship and stored in pressurized tanks, which can be dangerous if malfunctions occur. Once the desired pressure of the accumulator tanks is reached, the valves are shut off and the catapult is ready to fire.
Oh, okay.
But how exactly does a tank of steam cause a plane to accelerate at breakneck speeds? That's thanks to 2 pistons and a device that attaches to the airplane's landing gear, called a shuttle.
Shuttle.
Each catapult consists of 2 pistons that sit inside 2 long cylinders under the deck. The pistons each have a metal lug that protrudes through a gap in the flight deck where they attach to a small shuttle. This is the part of the catapult that will pull the aircraft across the deck at launch. The pistons will act like bullets when the steam is released. The plane is moved into place on the deck of the aircraft.
At least this explains it. I don't like the video.
Nose gear is connected to the shuttle. Another bar, called the holdback, is positioned between the back
But
of
it
the
makes
wheel and the
sense.
shuttle. At the same time, the jet blast deflector is raised behind the plane. The pistons are initially locked into place so the cylinders can build up pressure. Once the correct pressure, the aircraft is fired up to full power, held in place by the holdback bar. When the pistons are released, the force also releases the holdback, and the pressure of the steam rockets the shuttle and
Also, fun fact, steam does not like to get compressed, so
the catapult.
yeah.
The tow bar pops out of the shuttle, releasing the plane. During the launch, which takes around 2 seconds, the pilot of the aircraft experiences about 4 Gs of force, which is a lot, but nothing compared to what they experience during high-speed maneuvers in flight.
Yeah.
After the launch, the catapult needs to be reset. The 2 pistons run into a braking system, which is essentially just 2 large cylinders of water.
Don't tell me they just called it stupid. Hold on. Because apparently I just like looked at them like they have an electric system now too. So I'm like, what the hell? That is the same. God damn. That is in fact the same content. This at least looks better and doesn't say anything.
An implementation of electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, EMALS.
I like that it's labeled emails. Ah, there we go. A little bit more technical. But, like, hey! Steam. Very neat. Also, apparently, yeah, they're also trying to use electromagnet? Oh, they're doing the same thing with electromagnets. We are shooting these things off like a railgun. That's cool. Imagine how silent it must be. I mean, well, minus the, you know, the jet engine, but that's silent. Wow. Oh, it went pretty far, too. Oh, it bounced? Skipping rocks. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, this one's neat. This one's another 3D printing video from one of my favorite channels, 3D Printing Nerd. This is cool, and like something that might be used in the future for like real, for like actual like technical, like actual cool shit. I can't explain how cool this is. I just have to show you guys this video. It's cool. It's glass. It's 3D printed glass. But look how tiny they are.
Hey, it's Joel. I'm at UC Berkeley with my friend Joe. Hey, dude.
Hey.
Look at that blue, like, lab coat. It's so beautiful. And I was promised here that I was going to see things that were going to blow my mind. And producer David said, you know, we've talked to Maple Glass. They're an Australian company that extrude glass as a filament, and you get 3D printed glass.
Ooh.
And he was like, just wait till you see this. So, Joe, show me something that's going to blow my mind.
So in this method, we actually use a formulation of silica glass nanoparticles. These are
nanoparticles.
These are particles that are 40 nanometers in diameter.
We're doing the technical
How thick is a
words.
human hair?
A human hair is about 100 microns, micrometers. So this is 1,000
Infinitely
times smaller than that.
Okay. Wow, that is tiny.
You done been shrunk.
We fill this resin with these silica nanoparticles, and we do the normal CAL printing process.
CAL being computed axial lithography, the volumetric 3D printing.
With the printing, we are actually binding together.
CAL is very
these-
cool 3D
these silica
printing, by the way.
nanoparticles.
Look at
So
that.
the polymer, once it's cross-linked, holds these particles together in what we call a green part, which
Okay.
consists of the polymer and the silica.
Typical processes, a green part is something that then has to be debinded and sintered.
Exactly.
Right? Oh,
Yeah.
so here too.
Yeah. So the next step of the process is to put it in a debinding oven, which goes up to about 1100 Celsius. We burn out the polymer, so then we're only left with just a very
With
loosely
silica?
held together structure of silica nanoparticles.
How loosely is it?
It's very fragile, so it's like if you touch it, it can break apart
Okay.
and you lose your structure. And then the next step after that is to sinter it. So then we go up a little higher temperature, and we're actually almost melting the silica, and it's
Into the shape that
fusing
they
together.
need.
So at a molecular level, then the silica is fused?
It's softening, and it fuses together the particles into a continuous structure of silica.
And how big are these structures that you're making?
Right now, we've been able to print structures on the order of a few millimeters.
Look how tiny they are.
Minimum feature sizes around 50 micrometers, so that's about half the thickness of a human hair.
This is insane. This is glass.
That's how much detail they can make. And it's
At a
glass.
scale that I've never seen before. And it's not just a chunk of glass, like you said, microfluidity.
We can actually perfuse liquid through these channels. These channels.
Microfluidics is a system that manipulates a small amount of fluids using channels. So like very, 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 very tiny, small water pipes.
They're about minimum size of 150 micrometers.
How is this possible? Because when I've seen this CAL process, computed axial lithography, it's not as precise as this. Like this is a level of precision that I have yet to really experience or be told how
I'm
it
so
works.
baffled at how
Like,
tiny
do
it is.
you
I just
get
can't
it
help but like stare
this
at it
small,
and just go,
but this
"Oh."
precise?
Yeah, for these prints, we had to construct a different system that we called micro-cal. It had more magnification, so the system is magnified or projects a very small image into the material.
Ah,
this way we
small
can
laser.
write very small feature sizes.
Okay, so the standard CAL process is projecting an image into a material, and the stuff I've seen where it rotates. But you're magnifying it, or more I guess are you lensing it down, or
Right.
you? Oh.
Yeah, we're focusing the image to a much smaller area. So it's the image on the larger CAL setup, maybe a few inches or 50 millimeter
Yeah.
size. In this case, it's down about maybe 5 millimeter, the whole image.
Oh, so what you can do, you can create an object at a larger size, just knowing the rate at which it's going to be smaller because of this focus. So you know that something created at 10
We're using
millimeters
laser beams and
in
mirrors
length
to
is
shrink
going
it.
to be at a certain size lower.
The image is demagnified or shrunken down to a size of about 5 millimeters from the DMD chip, which is what creates the image. That's around 20 millimeters, so there's about 4 times
Okay.
demagnification.
I see a lot more samples here, and there's a lot more geometries other than just the two tiny things that I saw. So there's
Neat
purpose behind
geometries.
what you're doing, obviously. But what is that purpose? Where do you see this going? Where are there micro glass structures needed in certain industries?
One use case is for microfluidic structures, which are used to synthesize new materials in a way it's sometimes called continuous flow synthesis. In this
Ooh,
application, you
chemistry.
need sometimes high temperature liquids or corrosive liquids or acids or something. And if you print plastic or polymer microfluidic devices, these can degrade with these liquids. But
Oh, that's right, because you can keep acids in glass and it doesn't react.
right, silica is very chemically stable and Also
Even when-
high temperature
Even when
resistance.
shrunken down.
So you can have
these
those, like,
microglass structures.
tiny
then,
little
are they
brewing
temperature
glasses.
stable as well?
So they can withstand temperatures up to their melting point, which is around, I think, 1200 or something
Yeah.
C.
I can't. It just it blows my mind that we've got
We've made
these
small.
these are small. Joe, these are tiny glass structures, but they're functional. Like you said, microfluidic. Obviously, we have glass for lenses. Like, is there a need for micro lenses or those sort of structures that you could make with this?
Yeah, great point. We have also printed a lot of micro lens arrays, also.
That's right, not just lenses, but arrays of them, because you can.
The cal process is also very nice because it's layerless, and that means you don't have the layer artifacts on smooth surfaces like you do in other printing processes. So that leads to very exceptionally smooth surfaces. In this case, down less than 10 nanometer. Roughly.
So this could be even
Which is
used
what
for
you
like
need
optics
for
and
lenses
stuff.
and for microfluidic devices. You don't
Very
want
small
the
lasers.
turbulence that's generated by any sort of layer lines or anything like that in those devices or lenses. I mean, you'd have to you have to grind these out. And
you
how do
don't
you grind?
have to do any polishing processes after. Yeah. So this
No
gives very
polishing
smooth surfaces, and you can even do, since it doesn't require support material like.
I
layer
feel like I would
processing,
inhale this
you can
accidentally.
do multi-element structures with multiple lenses or.
This is incredible. I have never seen anything like this. Joe, what is something that you printed with this process, with this microcal and the glass, where you got it done and you looked at it and you're like, I can't believe I made that? Like, what made you question your sanity?
Yeah, I think that would definitely be the microfluidic structures, which were
that one over there. Yeah,
which were very, very challenging to both print and develop afterwards.
I mean, we're going to do our best with cameras we have to be able to show the audience how just incredibly detailed these are.
Tiny.
You have to, at that point, use like a scanning electron microscope to get to get that detail resolution. And just, I mean, in your own words, how do they look?
They look fantastic because the smoothness of the surfaces are great.
And I know, so the machine that made these has seen some upgrades and has been taken apart and changed a bit. It's so unassuming that something so mind-blowing was just made right there on a lab bench.
That was my most successful project so far.
Well, Joe, people out there are going to be really interested in this, and honestly,
Oh yeah, hear this. This
like,
is
I'm
really
super interested as
very
well.
cool.
So look right there and just tell them where they can go to find out more.
Yeah, so for this glass printing work, we published a journal paper in the journal called Science.
Okay, well, if so, we'll find it. We'll put a link.
Insane flex, just casually. Just to mention, like, oh, I just published this findings in a journal. What's the journal's name? Oh, Science. Like, it's like one of the most like prestigious ones too. Gotta peace out for now. Later. Bye-bye. But like, yeah. The 15th issue of Science, like, it's in here. Which is like such a incredibly impressive feat to do, especially when you're like a college kid still working at Berkeley. Like, really good. So like, good on him. And look, there's like it to prove that it actually like functions, like there's liquid running through it. Absolutely crazy. And it's just so casual. Oh, there's the micro lens array. So micro lenses you could probably use in stuff like I mentioned, like optics, phones, like smartphone displays, that type of thing. But look how cool these are. I love these.
Link down below. Joe, this has been a treat. Honestly, like one of the highlights of my day. Absolutely. Well, you know what? I hope this was a highlight of your day as well. And I hope you made it this far, because if you did, you're awesome. Don't forget to hug each other more, fight for cause you believe in, and microfluidic all the things.
Good word.
Maybe.
Good word
And
for
as always,
today.
high five. No one? Oh, crisp. Always. So good.
Such a good, such a very interesting video technically. I love it. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure. I think I have enough for let's say one more, and then I'll save the rest for next time. Let's leave it like that, because this is fun. This is fun. I felt okay. Energetic. Okay.
Franklin
This one is by Practical Engineering. I think I've showcased their stuff beforehand.
Bridge that carries.
Oopsie. Whoops. Cancel. Discard clip. Wanted to add it to the Find Out Friday playlist. This one is about why spillway gates don't rust. Because, you know, we have a lot of, like, stuff in the water. And why doesn't it rust? Very important thing to do. So let us look and find out.
Bridge that carries roughly 180,000 vehicles per day across Old Tampa Bay between St. Petersburg and Tampa, Florida.
I mean, personally, I think Florida should be sunken into the sea, but, like, for the time being, this is very cool engineering.
A replacement for the bridge is currently under construction, but the Florida Department of Transportation almost had to replace it decades earlier. The bridge first opened for traffic in 1960, but by the mid-1980s, it was already experiencing severe corrosion to the steel reinforcement within the concrete members. After less than 30
terrifying
years of service,
infrastructure.
FDOT was preparing to replace the bridge, an extremely expensive and disruptive endeavor. But before embarking on a replacement project, they decided to spend a little bit of money on a test, a provisional retrofit to try and slow down the corrosion of steel reinforcement within the bridge's substructure. Over the next 2 decades, FDOT embarked on around 15 separate corrosion protection projects on the bridge. And it worked! The Howard Franklin Bridge lasted more than 60 years in the harsh coastal environment before needing to be replaced, kept in working condition for a
60
tiny
years
fraction of the cost
in
of replacing
Florida.
it in the 1980s. The way that bridge in Tampa was
Crazy.
protected involved a curiously simple technique, and I've built a ridiculous machine in my garage so we can have a corrosion protection shootout and see how it measures up. I'm Grady, and this is Practical Engineering. In today's episode, we're talking about cathodic protection for corrosion control.
Corrosion is just a fancy way to say rust. Don't get it twisted, you know? Ooh. Funny machine.
Of all the structural metals in use today, most applications in infrastructure consist of mild steel, just plain old iron and carbon. There are so many applications where steel infrastructure comes into contact with moisture, including bridges, spillway gates, water tanks, and underground pipelines. That means there are so many opportunities for rust to deteriorate the constructed environment. We're in the middle of a deep dive series on rust, and in the previous video about corrosion, I talked about its astronomical cost, which equates to roughly $1,400 per person per year just in the United States alone. Of course, we could build everything out of stainless steel, but it's about 5 times as expensive for the raw materials and much more difficult to weld and fabricate than mild steel. Instead, it's usually more cost-effective to protect that mild steel against corrosion. And there are a number of ways to do it. Paint is an excellent way to create a barrier so that moisture can't reach the metal. And I'll cover
Let's flip over the bean. No, let's melt the bean.
Some limitations to paint, including that it's susceptible to damage and it's not always possible to apply, like for rebar inside concrete. That's where cathodic protection comes in handy. Let me introduce you to what I'm calling the Rustomatic 3000,
it doesn't deserve to be there.
a machine you're unlikely to ever need or want. It consists of a tank full of salt water and a shaft on a geared servo. These plastic arms lower steel samples down into the saline water and then lift them back up so the fan can dry them off, hopefully creating some rust.
The energy involved is crazy.
Corrosion is an electrochemical process.
We learned about rust.
That just means that it's a chemical reaction that works like an electrical circuit. The 2 individual steps required for corrosion, called reduction and oxidation, happen at separate locations. This is possible because electrons can flow through the conductive metal from areas of low electric potential, called anodes, to those of high potential, called cathodes. As the anode loses electrons, it corrodes. This reaction is even possible on the same piece of metal because different parts of the material may have slightly different charges that drive the corrosion cell. However, you can create a much larger difference in electric potential by combining different metals. This table is called the galvanic series, and it shows the relative inertness or nobility, in other words, resistance to corrosion, of a wide variety of metals.
When any two of these materials are joined together and immersed in an electrolyte, the metal with lesser nobility will act as the anode and undergo corrosion. The more noble metal becomes the cathode and is protected from corrosion. You can see that steel sits near the bottom of the galvanic table, meaning it is less noble and more prone to corrosion. But there are a few metals below it, including some commonly available ones like aluminum, zinc, and magnesium. And wouldn't you know it, I have some pieces of aluminum, zinc, and magnesium here in my garage that I attach to samples of mild steel in this demo. We can test out the effects of cathodic protection in the Rust-O-Matic 3000. Each time the samples are lifted to dry, the Arduino controlling the whole operation triggers a couple of cameras to take a photo. One of the samples is a control with no anode, then the other three have anodes attached consisting of magnesium, aluminum, and zinc from left to right.
They're not even like connected, it's just two things,
3
you know?
weeks my time. One application of cathodic protection you might be familiar with is galvanizing, which involves coating steel in a protective layer of zinc.
Yeah,
The
zinc
coating
plating.
acts kind of like a paint to physically separate the steel from moisture, but it also acts as a sacrificial anode because it's electrically coupled to the metal. Galvanizing steel is relatively inexpensive
Arduino
and
mentioned.
extremely
Yay!
effective at protecting against corrosion. So nearly all steel structures exposed to the environment have some kind of zinc coating, including framing for buildings, handrails, stairs, cables, sign support structures, and more. Most outdoor-rated nails and screws are galvanized. You can even get galvanized rebar for concrete structures, and there are applications where it's worth the premium to extend the lifespan of the project. But because it's normally a factory process that involves dipping assemblies into gigantic baths of molten zinc, you can't really re-galvanize parts after the zinc has corroded to the point where it's no longer protecting the steel. Also, in aggressive environments like the coast or cold places that use de-icing salts, a thin zinc coating might not last very long. In many cases, it makes more sense to use an anode that can be removed and replaced, like I've done in my demonstration here. Cathodic protection anodes like this are used on all kinds of infrastructure projects.
I like to think about this as like it's like a
underwater. I let this demonstration run for 3 weeks in my garage.
I kind of like imagining the anodes as like just like rust protection medallions.
Each cycle,
which is basically what it looks like on its outside, you know.
Water just about 6,000 times. And here's a time lapse of those entire 3 weeks. Correct me if you find something better, but I think this might be the highest quality time-lapse video of corrosion that exists on the internet.
Cool. Rust video. Ooh. Rust. It is honestly cool time-lapse footage, though.
It's actually really pretty, but if you're the owner of a bridge or pipeline that looks like this sample on the left, you're going to be feeling pretty nervous.
You should not be hired,
You can see that the unprotected steel rusts far faster than the other
Look how
three,
bad it's
and
getting.
the rust attacks the sample much more deeply. The sample with the magnesium looks like it was most protected from corrosion, but watch the anode. It's nearly gone after just
the anode's just going away. Oh, it's
the least noble metal on the galvanic series by a long shot.
It's disappearing.
Samples with aluminum and zinc anodes do experience some surface corrosion, but it's significantly less than the control. In fact, this is exactly how the lifespan of the Howard Franklin Bridge in Tampa was extended for so long. Zinc was applied around the outside of concrete girders and in jackets around the foundation piles, then coupled to the reinforcing steel within the concrete so it would act as a sacrificial anode, significantly slowing down the corrosion.
So the zinc would
of the
rust
vital
instead of
structural
the
components.
important bits.
Here's a close-up of each sample after I took them down from the rust.
Oh my goodness.
3000, and you can really see how dramatic the difference is. The pockets of rust on the unprotected steel are so thick compared to the minor surface corrosion experienced by the samples with magnesium, aluminum, and zinc anodes. The anodes went through some pretty drastic changes themselves. After scraping off the oxides, the zinc anode is nearly intact. And you can even see some of the original text cast into the metal.
Yay, zinc.
The aluminum anode corroded pretty significantly, but there's still a lot of metal left. On the other hand, there's hardly anything left of the
magnesium is gone.
for only 3 weeks.
Oh my god,
and here's a look at the metal after I wire brushed all the rust off each sample. The difference in roughness is hard to show on camera, but it was very dramatic to the touch. There's no question that the samples with cathodic protection lost much less material to corrosion over the duration of the experiment.
Dip, 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 dip.
There's actually one more trick to cathodic protection used on infrastructure projects. Rather than rely on the natural difference in potential between different materials, we can introduce our own electric current to force electrons to flow in the correct direction and ensure that the vulnerable steel acts as the cathode.
We just
in the
pump it with
corrosion cell.
electricity.
This process is called impressed current cathodic protection.
Well, I'm impressed.
In many places, pipelines are legally required to be equipped with impressed current cathodic protection systems to reduce the chance of leaks, which can create huge environmental costs. The potential between the pipe and soil is usually only a few volts, around that of a typical AA battery, but the current flow can be in the tens or hundreds of amps. If you look along the right-of-way for a buried pipeline, especially at road crossings, you can often see the equipment panels that hold rectifiers and test stations for the underground cathodic protection system. The Howard Franklin Bridge also had some impressed current systems, in addition to the passive protection to further extend its life, proving a valuable lesson we learn over and over again. The maintenance and rehabilitation of existing facilities is almost always less costly, uses fewer resources, and is less environmentally disruptive than replacing them. You don't need a civil engineer to tell you that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, or whatever the metric equivalent of that is. It's true for human health, and it's true for infrastructure. Making a structure last as long as possible before it needs to be replaced isn't just good stewardship of resources, it's a way to keep the public safe and prevent environmental disasters too. Corrosion is one of the #1 ways that infrastructure deteriorates over time, so cathodic protection systems are an essential tool for keeping the constructed environment safe and sound.
Very neat video. Like, if you want to watch, I guess, the rest of the... It's such a weird thing to say. It's like, if you want to watch the rest of the corrosion playlist, you can, you know, watch or subscribe to Practical Engineering. They're very, like, it's very, one of my, it's a very favorite place to, like, learn about, like, just stuff in general. Like, I'd rather watch this type of thing instead of, like, some kind of whatever drama's going on. I'd rather watch, like, ooh, how gates work. Why rivers move. How long would Texas last during a total grid collapse? Like, it's neat. It's so neat. I'm glad I could share this all with you. I don't know. I think this was a very good stream. I liked it. We had a lot of stuff. All right. So let's get out of here. And in the meantime, I'm going to see who we can raid. So thank you guys for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. I have a feeling tomorrow's stream is more likely going to be Deadlock than... what did I say? I think I said Hades. Just because... You know... Like, yeah, we played a lot of Hades. But hey, we should, do the other thing instead. Let's see here. Give me a second while I just... wait for the thing for the stream. All right. So, anyway, I'm going to send you guys over to a friend of mine. Or, Hazen. They are nice. They're cool. See you guys tomorrow for, what did I say? Hades? No. Deadlock. Make sure you save before you go and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye-bye.